So I originally filmed this thumbnail sketchbook a few days ago, and then when I was trying to edit it, I lost some of the footage and the lighting was all inconsistent, so I decided to do it over again. The stickers were added in after the journal was pretty much already done because it was like falling apart, because this is a really old journal. See, I just put construction paper over it, and I've been trying to save it for as long as possible because I've had this since 2012, but I didn't really start working in it until I want to say 2019, which is why I just finished it. But this is the sketchbook that I use to essentially write down all of my ideas. I have sketchbooks for different things. I've mentioned that before. So I have some sketchbooks that are the pretty ones. I have some that are for anatomy, some that are for note-taking, some that are for character design, and this one is just me trying to scribble up as many ideas as possible. So like I said, this is from 2012, which means that I was still in school. So when you open it up, you see like a bunch of upside down homework and notes that I had. Me trying to finish a face, I didn't finish it. Since this is like newspaper paper, it's kind of, I guess, blended in over time, so you kind of have to get close to see some of it, but yeah. And some of these are doodles from like my friends that would draw in my sketchbook with me. This was for a project. I remember I had to do a science project, and we had to create a creature that combined like a real living creature and an ecosystem. So we did that out of clay. It was like a whole thing. Then I have always been really into Greek mythology, but I was in my phase. So a lot of these are like sketches because I tried to do a comic for when college applications were happening. So I designed the characters in here first. You can see the references, I think. And I didn't know how to use a sketchbook when I was still in high school. I got my first one of my little pretty sketchbooks, so the ones that I do here, when I was in high school around the same time as when I was drawing this. So this I think was 2015. And I only drew on one side of the paper because I was always scared of like everything bleeding through, especially on this one. And I was right to be trepidatious on these because these will bleed through for anything. This is when I first got Copics ever, and I was testing them out. I've come a long way from whatever this was. I had to wait for the plane to stop. So this is the amount of bleed through that it would go through, and that was just me using one layer, so not the amount that I would use today. This, I think, was for a school project. We had to make like a business, and I was making a bunch of things. I have no idea what this is to this day, but I think she was a gardener from the other pictures that I've seen. That's great economy of the page right there. Yeah, I think she was a gardener. Just, yeah. Then I think when I was in college, at least the first year, I tried to make this like a sketchbook that I would use consistently, but I don't really think it was working out for me. So I tried, I think, to use it more often for like process work, but I think I was still trying to figure out how to really use a sketchbook. So I put this in the back for a while. Have no idea what some of these things are, genuinely. I think this is from back in 2012 because it doesn't match anything else that I was doing. And here we are at when I actually started using it. So I'm just gonna flip it this way because this is when I started using all of the pages. All right. So in 2019, I had just graduated and I was living back home. So I decided to start having my Etsy page. I obviously still run it. I have way new stickers on there now, way better stickers now. But originally I was really gung-ho about doing it on Halloween. So I had all of these Hocus Pocus inspired sticker designs that I did here. And I wrote notes about everything. And I had ideas for Black Phillip stickers, which ironically is my best-selling sticker of all time. But this is like the origins, I guess. And some of them were... I still think that they could work. I just need to actually make them look my style, because I had him on a butter can, because you know, you want butter. I had him with boots, because when he transforms into like a human person, he has like those boots on. I think I was gonna draw him in like historically accurate like clothing or something, because he asked her if she would like pretty dresses or traveling, so I had a bunch of them. None of these ended up becoming a thing. So I ended up doing a lot of Hocus Pocus related stuff, and I still have a ton of these stickers, mainly because I don't think I knew at the time how to market them, and now they feel a little too old. And I put them on a mystery pack on Etsy in case anyone wants to buy those, because that way you can get whichever ones are randomly selected. Then around 2019, I had started working really hard on a book dummy that I had from college. So the second to last semester of college, I worked on a book dummy based on Beauty and the Beast, and it became like my favorite project in the world. A lot of my portfolio pieces are from there, and I don't think I'm ever going to make it and sell it or anything, but I wanted to finish it for myself, I guess, because a lot of things had to be left in black and white because of time restraints, and I wanted to finish it. So I did like a list, and I tried to write everything down, and this is all simultaneously happening while I'm getting ready for Halloween, because I like to call September Halloween prep month, and so I would sketch everything out in here for both Inktober and for my book. So some of these are sort of all over the place. This is for the book. I was trying to write down what would go on each page, and then I realized that's insane, because I cannot understand my own handwriting, let alone for several pages of a book. These were sort of like icons for some of my Etsy shop promo. It bleeds through, and I think right around here is when I was like, I'm just gonna scrap ever using color in this, and I think that was for the best. Like I said, a lot of things were happening simultaneously, and me and my friend, since I had an Etsy, decided to make an Etsy for the two of us, and it was called Curly Stickers. We since realized that that was a little insane to do, because we had never done something like that before, and so I'm selling all of them on my own shop. We kind of got rid of the other Etsy store, but the stickers are still good. So we tried to do sort of a combination of our styles, because she does a lot of like pin-up-y things, and since I do a lot of historical stuff, we tried to do 1950s monster characters, and this is kind of where we were like getting everything done for a sticker sheet. So I drew a lot of these, and while they didn't end up becoming anything, I think there's still some promise, which is why I keep them in here. A lot of planes today, sadly. This was us trying to figure out if we wanted to do postcards or just stickers. We ended up doing just stickers because it was easier for us to get those made. I drew this, but the proportions are all off. And some of the characters changed a lot. So like this lady, we completely sold out of already. I think the only one we still have left is like a corpse bride character, and a lot of the Valentine's Day stickers that are gonna show up here eventually. We never ended up making the mummy, sadly, because I still think she's pretty fun. We completely changed the bride so that it would be a less of a 50s outfit and something more lacy. I don't even know what some of these were for. I don't know, I think that one could still be a sticker if you ask me. Okay. Around Inktober, I decided that since I was in school for all of the Inktobers that I've ever participated in, that I should really try to do Inktober the right way. Just ink all 31 days. And I ended up trying to sketch everything. None of this is in chronological order, so I'm just gonna move it. I tried to sketch a lot of things in here for Inktober, in between more of our sticker designs. This is more of the direction that we ended up going for with the bride. This is missing, I think, because we wrote like a number on it and then we just ripped it out. And I don't know what's going on here. These are notes, I think, for what I was supposed to be doing that month. Yeah, and so I started sketching out Inktober. I went with the words that were actually used in the official Inktober lineup, and I tried to make things that fit around those themes. And here's when I started making the official ideas that I would eventually do in ink. So I did ring, you know, build, swing, things like that. And I did all of them. And then immediately afterwards, I had to do a thing for a friend's zine that was about Christmas. And I decided to make it about, you know, my Christmas, because I'm in Puerto Rico. So we have the Three Kings, and then we have Santa Claus, because I could use that as a postcard sort of situation. And I was also simultaneously working on portfolio stuff because I was going to redo my website. So I tried to do book covers. I still think that I should do way more book covers, but I was in a different phase, I think, around here. And so a lot of the book covers I don't feel like they represent me. Some of them were fantastic though, because I really love what I did with Frankenstein. I think the idea of having it like stitched into him was really fun, and I like some of the other ideas that I had for it too. So if I ever have time, I definitely want to do some of these again. Did Great Gatsby, Alice in Wonderland. Alice in Wonderland is still on my website because even though it's not really my style, I do think it's a really good drawing. I don't think that's wise for your portfolio, but I have kept it in until I can think of a better book design that I can do. I tried to do Harry Potter, I didn't really like it. Wizard of Oz, didn't really like it. Following the success that we had with the Halloween stickers, because we went to a festival and we sold a lot of those, we tried to do some for Christmas, but that didn't end up happening. We were thinking of doing it like Addams Family, but it didn't end up happening anyway, so it's kind of sad because we had like these little illustration ideas. Here's Pugsley. Pugsley actually came out really cute, I'm not gonna lie. So that didn't end up happening, so we cut our losses. We didn't do any Christmas stickers, and then I ended up working again on Beauty and the Beast because it's been on and off for the past few years. I was thinking of doing a cover, and I was really frustrated because, like I shared before, I had tried to do cover designs before, and they didn't really feel like me, because I think a lot of like modern book covers tend to be really simplistic, and that's not really my style. So I kept going back and forth between what I wanted to do and having it look too busy, and trying to rearrange and sort of fix the anatomy on some of these, because you don't really realize how much better you get at art through like a year until you're trying to work on old pieces and you realize, God, I could have done that so much better. So I started redoing it. The sad thing is that I finally finished all the illustrations, and now looking back at it in just 2022, I'm like, I could still do better, but I'm not gonna change them anymore after this. I also forgot to mention that I doodled our dog in bat wings because I made him a Halloween costume. Once again, working on the layout. More drawings. This is really me trying to fill up the space because I realized that a lot of them were just text and they could do with a drawing here and there, or at least a design that would connect them together. More book cover ideas that didn't end up working out. This was me trying to figure out like the aesthetics of it, because I really wanted it to be based off of 1700s France without actually giving it a specific year, which was a fun idea. And also because I watched pretty much any Beauty and the Beast version that I can get my hands on, and I really liked how in the French 2013 movie, is it 2013? I liked how the climate was controlled inside the castle and outside it was snowing, so I tried to do something like that. This is for a zine that I'm in. I have a couple copies of it because it already came out. And this was my first time working for Level Ground Comics. They are from Savannah, and they do anthologies a lot of the times. They're working on some now. And this was the first time I ever did one, and it was basically a recipe book sort of situation. It was about you either doing art or comics about food from your culture. It was a comic. I have not done comics in a very long time because while I was a sequential minor, I think I was always better at just one illustration than doing the entire layout for a comic. It's not as easy as some people make it sound. I have a lot of respect for people who can make such clean, dynamic comics because I don't think I'm one of them. So this was all the sketches that I ended up doing until I decided on a final. At the same time, the friend that was doing the Christmas zine ended up doing a February zine for Valentine's Day that I participated in, and I don't know if I like them anymore. I worked hard on it because I wanted to do love of reading, and I had this like creature made of paper that was supposed to be like a lion that's protecting her, and I like the concept and I don't know if I like the execution still. I guess that's the good thing about keeping the concept art sketchbook. More doodles. Okay, so me and my friend, since we were doing curly stickers and we didn't do Christmas, we decided to do Valentine's Day because we figured since she was at school at the time that we could sell some around there. And a lot of these did not end up being anything. We were doing math. Or math. She drew this. And then this was kind of us trying to split everything up. Hope I don't get censored. And then when we finished those stickers, we did make a couple, and the pandemic happened. So we didn't end up getting to go to the festival that we really wanted to go to sell off the rest of the stickers, which is why we still have some. We got rid of the Etsy, so I've been selling them on my own Etsy. So if you guys are interested in seeing them, I suggest going over there. If not, I'm gonna try to be able to sell them at the other festivals that I get to go to now that things are kind of getting back to normal conventions wise, in a mask obviously. So then there was a self-portrait exhibition. I guess the good thing about the sketchbook is that everything's in chronological order, so I'm kind of remembering everything that I did during the pandemic. There was a self-portrait contest that I tried to get into. I didn't win, and I can see why in hindsight, but these were some of the concepts. I ended up going with this one, and it's still got a lot left. I think I was rushing to finish it, and it wasn't that good. This is a cosplay idea that I never ended up working on, and it is because when I was in college, I want to say around 2015, I dressed up as Harley Quinn because I did not have time to make my own costume, which is what I usually do for Halloween. But basically I had the original costume, and then I went to a thrift store and I found a 1950s dress thing. So one day when I was fooling around with like costume ideas, I put it on and I realized that it kind of looked like a silly little Salem witch. And I have drawn Salem Witch Harley before, but I think she's very cute and I don't know what else to do with her. So then around Women's History Month, I decided to do like a couple of famous female painters in history to put up on YouTube because I had just started using YouTube as an actual flip through progress thing, not necessarily for views because it's not like I have that many subscribers even now, but for website content. So like if I did something, I could put it up on my old website and I could be like, hey, check out my sketchbook. And that was like a good way for art directors to see my sketchbook. I've completely redone my website since, so I haven't done that in a while, but you can see kind of, I guess, from first impression, if you know anything about art history, who each person is. And as for Artemisia, I've been wanting to do like a little info book about Artemisia for a while, ever since I did a art history report on her, but it just has not come to pass. Then I was in another zine because zines were like an easy way for, I guess, me to apply to something and actually get paid if it was a paid zine, because getting work around the pandemic was absolutely horrific. I could not get an in-house job to save my life, and I've really pivoted since to try to do freelance work because it was not working in my favor. But when I was doing the zine, it was about Mother Nature, and so I did this, and I think I like the sketch better than the actual finished drawing that I ended up doing, which is usual for me. But that really inspired me to do Mythological May, which is kind of when I realized that I could just make things for myself and sell them. So when I did Mythological May, it was because I was incredibly bored with Mermaid. I like Mermaid. I like to see people's art. I think it's fantastic. I'll do a little mermaid every now and then, but I get really tired of drawing mermaids like for 31 days. It was exhausting for me, and I knew that I wasn't going to have any motivation to do it unless I did something different. So I did Mythological May, and I wrote down 31 different kinds of like prompts that are in mythology, so like tropes, and I went from there. I originally called it Divine May, and then I changed it for the alliteration. But you can tell that this character kind of changed a lot, and I think this one is still better than the one that I ended up doing, but beside the point. So I ended up making the entire list, and I go through all of the pages trying to figure out what they were because I wanted it to be as organized as possible. I didn't want to have to come up with the idea on the day. So this is where that one page was from. So I had all of these sketches of different characters here. I tried to label them based on what the prompt was so that I wouldn't forget. And I was also working on editorial ideas for my portfolio, so I had articles about AIs, for example. I ended up doing this. This one's on my portfolio. This is a poem that I tried to sketch out that it did not end up happening. Back to the original sketches. Yeah, so once I did all of them, I really changed them a lot, and they're in the actual page of the silhouettes because I drew them all together to see if some of them were too similar to each other. I put them in my actual sketchbook where I did Mythological May, so they're not in here. So once I saw how much attention Mythological May was getting, because that's around when Instagram was actually working out for me, I realized that I could sell them, and I ended up going on Kickstarter to make my first Kickstarter ever, and it was a zine that I was selling on my shop. I made quite a few of them because I made more money than I was expected to make, and I sent ones to the people that had donated and a digital copy, and then the rest of them I kept for my shop, and I sold a bunch of them over on when I was at Comic-Con last month, and I only have 1 or 2 zines left. For the Kickstarter, I tried to do like a reward, so if we went up the amount of money that I asked for, obviously I got more zines, but I wanted to give them a little something with the extra cash, so I did sticker designs. I ended up going with something like this. It's pretty similar. And since that worked out for me and I finished that project, I decided to move on and try to think of other things that I could add to my shop or to another shop, and I started a TeePublic. I don't necessarily think I'm gonna keep using TeePublic because I don't really get much traffic there, but I did make some designs that I'm still really happy with, like these, because I have this in a tote bag and it's really pretty. This is my Halloween watch list. I tried to make a list of all of the movies that I watched that October, because I'm a crazy person, but it's like become a tradition at this point, and I've been trying to one-up myself every year. So this year I watched 74 movies. I don't remember how many I watched next year, but it's still in here, so This is my list for Mythological May number 2. So 2021, I decided to do it again, and I tried to come up with prompts that were completely different. I was also working on a different thing. I was trying to do a comic for a zine, and it didn't work out. I didn't end up getting in, but these are the characters that I created for it, and that's where this one is from. Haha, it's all coming together. And that's where these are from. So yeah, this is the black and white versions of it for the lighting. This was the original image before I scanned it, and they are from here. So this was like the kid that was the main character, her sister, her mother, her grandmother, and this was supposed to be the dad because it was a whole thing. Then the people that made the other zine that I was in, Level Ground Comics, they ended up doing another really great one called Game Changers, and it was for sports. And for those of you that don't know, I did tennis for a very long time when I was younger, and I decided to do 2 illustrations for them. So it was singles and it was doubles tennis. This is me trying to figure out the poses, what the characters would look like. This was supposed to be like a postcard that I was thinking of making for them, but I did not have the time to do that. So that got scrapped. Back to Beauty and the Beast as usual, because this is an ongoing project. This was what was going to be the cover page, and then I scrapped it because it was more of a cute spot illustration than anything else. I never actually did it, but it's very cute. And I like it. I should make it for myself at least, even if it doesn't end up in the actual printed book dummy for myself ever. Then I decided to start working on Mythological May number 2 because I was gonna run out of time if I didn't. And I thought maybe I could do another zine, but that one wasn't as popular on Instagram because that's when Instagram kind of tanked, and I knew that if I didn't have the social media reach, I wasn't gonna make my Kickstarter goal, so I ended up not making this into a zine. If people are actually interested in it, I might, because obviously the pictures are finished. I have all of the finished pieces on my computer, but c'est la vie. This is me trying to figure out a lot of the characters that I already had in mind when I thought of those words. And for the most part, things changed either a lot, so like the designs for this one completely changed, or they were kind of like the same because I had a vision. I just need to figure out like what they actually looked like. She's still so cute. So a lot of these you can kind of tell where my brain was going with them. This one, I don't like the finished piece, and yet I really like the concept one, go figure. And some of them had to be changed in progress, like around when I was actually drawing them, because I would get like exhausted, and I knew that even though I had like a great idea, I didn't have time to execute it properly. So some of them went from being like humanoid characters to not being humanoid characters, at least for my sake. So sadly, I never got to do alcohol, like the deity of alcohol, and I'm really mad about it because I really liked where these sketches were going, but the day of drawing it I was exhausted and nothing was coming out right, so I had to scrap it or I was going to lose my mind. This one is a protector of women, and I changed her around a lot because I didn't know what kind of outfit I wanted to give her. I had her in armor, I had her in like a robe, I had her kind of an outfit like Lady Sif had in Thor, and I kept changing it. She's still really cute. This one had so much promise, and yet it was so ugly when I actually finished it. This one had a completely different pose. This is what I ended up going for my Protector of Women. I made her an indigenous woman instead, and I think that's when I actually liked the design. And then here is where I did all of them silhouetted together. Since I didn't end up making a zine or anything, I didn't do this for like I did last time, but this is it. And I still wasn't happy with some of them when I did this because I realized that some might look too similar to each other, and that's what this was for. So I was trying to redesign it. Like I said, I've been working on my Etsy for a while now, and I decided that since I revamped my website and I was revamping a lot of my art, that I should completely redo some of the listing on Etsy and just cut my losses on some of them, and or change ones that were really popular, which was kind of a gamble, but my art was better, and so I decided to redo my Black Phillip stickers. I should really go back to the ones that I showed you guys before, but this one came out really nice, and it's in my shop, and it is my baby, and I just ran out of the glitter version, so I need to order some soon. So around Halloween, I ended up doing a thing called Historic-tober, and it is not in the sketchbook. I ended up sketching it out on a completely different little mini sketchbook that I had, because I was working on all of these in a different sketchbook. I've shown it here before. It was like a watercolor sketchbook because I was trying to work on character designs and historical clothing. Around the pandemic, I realized that I had like a really strong affinity for historical costuming because I have always really liked art history, and I was getting into like a lot of those costumers on YouTube, and I ended up making a list of time periods that I liked. This is simultaneously the list for Historic-tober as well as my Halloween movie watch list again. And when I finished it, I ended up drawing all of them, all 31 drawings, and then I took my favorites from all of them, and those are the ones that I took to finish and I put on my website. This one is my absolute favorite, and this one was a 1950s Frankenstein girl prom character, and I liked her so much that I decided to make more of them for my portfolio. So I have her in a nightgown, I have her in casual clothes, and I have her in a varsity shirt. And then I made her room for my website so that I could show that I can do like concept interiors. This is around Mother's Day. My mom has an old painting that I made back in like, I want to say 2011. I kind of hate, and I've been begging her to get rid of it because I can do so much better now, and she refuses. So I decided to redo it better. She keeps both next to each other, so at least now I can say this is a new one. Last Inktober is quite frankly my favorite art challenge I think I've ever done, because everything that I did, if not for my portfolio, is still a great piece of art, and I still really like them. So I decided to do 13 days instead, because with Mythological May, it's a lot of work, and it's great when it's all finished, but it's exhausting. And I knew that given the amount of stress that I was having around here, that I could not handle that. So I'm glad that I ended up only doing 13, because it gave me a chance to make sure that all 13 drawings were something that I was proud of. Well, I ended up doing a thing called Trece Brujas, because I called it, 13 witches. And I would take themes that I liked, so like 60s mod, pre-Raphaelite, cowboys, fairy tales, things like that, things that I like drawing, and I took and made a list of things that I needed for my portfolio, so book covers, spots, vignettes, spreads, regular illustrations, and I decided to sort of do like a generator thing and apply one of these to each one until I got good portfolio ideas. And I started doing this around September, because September, like I said, is Halloween prep month, but it's also my birthday month. And since I had done a drawing of myself for my birthday the year before, I decided to do it again this year, and I kind of want that to be like an annual tradition where I draw a self-portrait of myself for my birthday. I finally got to draw this, which I think you might have seen before, and it was based on a photograph of me with a tiny little skeleton from Target. Back to the last Inktober. So like I said, I had combined them. So this was a vignette, this was a full illustration, this was double page spread, spots, all of them I'm still really happy with, especially this one from here. I love how this one came out. Then you got this one, and this was 1700s. I thought a good way to use 1700s and book spread was to do an actual fairy tale, so I decided to reimagine Hansel and Gretel as if it were happening Rococo France. so that I could draw as many pink frilly cupcakes and sweets all over the place, and it was really fun. This one was Puritan. I did book cover, and even though I loved this when I drew it, I hated it, so I completely redid it. It doesn't look like what it's in here. 60s spots, so girls in 60s dresses dancing. They're little witches. They're wearing little witch hats. That was fun because I realized I could do patterns with Liquify on Procreate. Fairy tale vignette, so I did the Evil Queen. I was kind of bored of the Evil Queen always looking kind of the same, so I made her Elizabethan, so like with that collar. One of my favorite drawings still. This was a vignette slash spot, and it was familiar, so it was like a witch, and I ended up giving her glasses to match the other owls so they could look the same, and it ended up being a sticker that I ended up selling at Comic-Con that was really popular, so I was happy with that. Kidlit, this is for a book that I've had in my Pinterest board for ages. I have like a board of storybooks that I would love to do someday, like write myself, but don't have an idea established just yet, and I did the cover for it. Circus illustration, it was like a whole thing, so I ended up doing this like little witch who's also like a circus clown. Tropical book cover completely changed to be a middle grade book cover. And then Witch's House was an excuse for me to draw something black and white for my Kidlit portfolio. And I need to make more black and white things since that's like a staple in Kidlit. This is my movie list from 2021. Those are all the movies I watched. So I watched 79 movies this time. This is around Christmas when I was trying to figure out presents. I had made this for my grandparents, and I was thinking of making something embroidered for one of my best friends, the one that I did all those stickers with, but it was very new to embroidery, and I genuinely did not have the time because my hands were aching because I had made my like Halloween costumes. And after working on my Moana skirt, I was like, I cannot sew anymore. I cannot do it. So I ended up scrapping that. This is for more ideas. I wanted to do more couples because I realized that I really don't draw couples, and I should. So I tried to draw a lady knight and a maiden based on Harley and Ivy. Scrapped it, never did it. I might do it some other day. Who knows? This was... I used myself as a reference, which is why she looks like me, but this was another drawing that I did, completely separate. I had a dream where I was dressed like this, and don't ask. And then this is like notes on portfolio plans and artists that I was supposed to look up and resources. Yes, in Christmas, I spent Christmas Eve drawing this on my iPad because I saw a TikTok of a man singing a version of Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer about Bilbo Baggins, and I remembered that Rankin and Bass did do The Hobbit, but they didn't do it stop motion, and that filled me with a rage until I made my own, and I still think he's very cute. This was like my list of things that I wanted to do after Christmas break was over. I've done some of them already, which is great. I did this drawing, I did this drawing, I did this drawing, did not do this, did not do that, and I don't think I will. I figured that since it was a new year that I should start working on getting my Etsy stickers made, so like new ones, completely new designs, because Etsy kind of works better for you when you're constantly activating it and posting more listings. And I had like a whole list of things that I wanted to get done and character designs for other things that I wanted to just quickly draw here. And then around February, I wasn't gonna do anything, but I was gonna take a break around February, but I saw a dress with sleeves so big that it looked like a goddamn croissant, so I made a bunch of breakfast women. And I told myself, once I'm done with all of these little breakfast ladies, I will absolutely take a break for the month of April, so that when Mythological May comes around, I can focus on, you know, actually doing Mythological May. And I had like a list of crafts that I wanted to do because I have completely rearranged my art studio space because I work inside my bedroom and it was not fun. I felt really cramped and I was getting really upset about the way that my space was laid out. So I was thinking of things that I could do to make it feel better and more homey, and some of these I did make. This is on a YouTube video I did recently. Blanket I want to make. And I told myself that I was gonna basically take a small break during the month of April and not work on anything except for getting my art studio fixed and ready to go, and getting my website fixed, because I ended up moving to Squarespace. It was like a whole thing. It took a while. I had to call them, and I was finally gonna do my break, and then I got called to be Comic-Con last minute. So I had to do Comic-Con. That was an opportunity I couldn't miss. So it was back to work. March through April was just me constantly working on getting sticker designs and getting prints done, and working on other projects and logos. And I even did like an entry for another zine right before the day of Comic-Con, because I knew that if I didn't get it done, then I wasn't going to be able to apply, because I was going to be there for 3 days and the power cut out. It was like a whole thing. And now I'm on my break, technically, because I decided not to draw for the month of May unless it was something serious, like the zine that I had already said that I was going to be a part of. So other than that, I haven't really been doing anything for my Etsy or for myself. I've been trying really hard to not draw, because I want to take care of myself and work on my studio space like I told myself I was going to. And then the last things that I drew in here were on a whim, because I realized that a good idea for my Etsy would be to make my own zines, because those are pretty cheap to make, at least if you do it traditionally. And I could do it once I get printer ink, and I can sell some of them, small batches, on my Etsy. And so I made a list of possible cosplays that I want to do someday, and once I pick those out, I can put them on like a little zine. And then we've made it to the final page. This is absolutely nothing, just garbage and some Posca pen swatches. So yeah, that was my concept thumbnail sketchbook, and hopefully my next thumbnail sketchbook will be kind of like the later parts of the sketchbook all around. And I'm definitely going to keep this basically forever, because there's still ideas that I want to work on that I never got to do.